Let me know if you're seeing the slides full screen.
Yep, that looks good to me.
Awesome. Okay, great. Well, I'm really excited to be here today. So I'm talking about a project that has really extensively used SNAC and aims to establish some workflows to edit SNAC in bulk, both effectively, but while still being in alignment with SNAC's editing guidelines and expectations of data quality. My name is Emily Frazier. I was formerly on the team for this project at Maryland Institute for Technologies in the Humanities. The project ended in May, which is also when I finished grad school. So I'm still at the University of Maryland now, but I am with the libraries. But I'm really excited to be here because I love talking about this data and these workflows. So the Broadcasting Audiovisual Data Project was a National Endowment for the Humanities funded project that was co-led out of MIT and the University of Wisconsin-Madison. And it was really intended from the start to interweave very closely with SNAC because SNAC is such a valuable archive-centered linked data resource, and this project really centers linked data. So this is actually a follow-up to an earlier NEH project, also led by MIT and UW-Madison, called Unlocking the Airwaves, which used some of the same archival collections, but was more broadly about the idea of virtual reunification. So Unlocking the Airwaves was about the National Association of Educational Broadcasters radio collection, which was geographically split, or still is geographically split, between the University of Maryland and the University of Wisconsin. And then in the BAVD project, we focused much more on archival authorities. You might also call them CPF records or entities or people in organizations or people in corporate bodies, all referring generally to the same group, for 4 different early public broadcasting archival collections in addition to the NAEB. So other than the NAEB, we also used a collection held fully at University of Maryland, another one held fully at Wisconsin, and one held fully at the University of Minnesota. And I give you that geographic and institutional context just to kind of indicate that in this project, we did not work solely with data that was kind of coming from one uniform set of finding aids that was easy to extract from. There was quite a bit of curatorial research and writing that went into this project before we got to those kind of bulk data workflows that I'm going to talk about in a little bit. So the goal of the project was to enhance discoverability by analyzing the authority data from these collections, including identifying the key people and organizations involved in these different nodes of early educational radio, surfacing the enhanced authority records to different linked data sources, and hopefully sending users to the archival collections at these respective libraries that hold them. And a really important aspect of this project is that almost all of these collections are, or in large part, they are fully digitized. So there's a lot of streaming audio and digitized documents that users are being directed back to when they go to the links to these archival collections. So the BAVD project has its own hub on the web where a person can search our data set of authority records and get links to the biographical information and the archival content in which that person or organization appears. And there's also like a visualization there to literally see the connections and kind of explore how these different educational radio players are connected to one another. But an equally important piece of the project was everything that you don't see on the project website, and that would be the surfacing of this authorities data onto Wikidata, onto SNAC, and to a lesser extent onto Wikipedia. So enter SNAC. There are 2 big things that we did with SNAC in this project. First was that we got data out of SNAC. By that, I mean we used the SNAC API to get a download of SNAC constellations for a given set of IDs. And then we transformed those constellations into a CSV that contained the data that we cared about. And we used this data as a basis to enhance records, as a basis to carry data from SNAC over to Wikidata, and to display biographical information on the BAVD site. I'm not going to be covering this piece in as much depth today, but I will point you to our documentation at the end that covers this aspect of the project. So the second thing we did that I am going to focus on today is we put a lot of data into SNAC, and that was using the SNAC OpenRefine extension, which was created by the SNAC development team. So we devised and executed a workflow to create several hundred new SNAC CPF records and several thousand SNAC resource records in bulk. And so of course, researching and writing them was a like largely manual process aided by data from Wikidata and Wikipedia, but this actual importing process into SNAC was done entirely through OpenRefine without having to actually touch the SNAC editor interface, so to speak. So this is a really broad overview of what the workflow looked like, and I'll talk a little bit about a few of these steps in particular. So the first step was to reconcile our project authority data against SNAC. Then we went on to research and write the SNAC record that we wanted to create. Then we configured OpenRefine with SNAC extension as well as our SNAC API key, and that's tied to your individual SNAC editor account. Then we exported our data out of our project database, which was Airtable, and imported it into OpenRefine. Then there's the step of formatting the data for SNAC upload using OpenRefine transformations. And this is where OpenRefine really is like an extremely powerful tool for this kind of work, because there are a lot of tools built into OpenRefine to make this kind of data transformation much easier. And then on top of that, because the actual data upload to SNAC also goes through OpenRefine, there's not as much changing of systems that has to happen. So then we mapped the data to the SNAC schema, then we uploaded it to SNAC, and then we verified our edits in the SNAC user interface and exported all of the SNAC IDs that we just generated from OpenRefine so that we had them to refer to and so that we could do the additional steps of this process that I'll talk about in just a minute. So the thing that complicates this workflow a little bit is that you can't just do the whole kind of flowchart one time and be done if you're trying to create full-fledged SNAC constellations. And by that, I mean SNAC constellations that actually link to resources and to other SNAC CPFs. So the first 3 steps of the workflow, you really only have to do once. But after that, the boxes I've marked here are things that you have to repeat essentially 3 times. So, if you've used a SNAC editor interface, you're probably familiar with the fact that you create a SNAC CPF record, but then when you want to attach links to finding aids or any other kind of archives, you have to create resources as separate objects in SNAC that you can then attach and reattach to a bunch of different CPF records. So to do this in bulk using OpenRefine, you have to do 1 round of uploads that creates the CPF record, a second round that creates the resource records, and a third round that creates the relationships, both between the CPF records and the resource record, but also between CPF records. And so this means that the first 2 steps of this workflow are going to give you a response back from SNAC that are going to give you SNAC IDs that you then have to use to create the third step of the process to create those relationships between the 2. There's really no way to do this workflow without repeating it. It's sort of by design in the SNAC plugin in OpenRefine that you have to repeat the workflow in order to create full constellations. So I want to talk a little bit more about this step of reconciling data first, because good data reconciliation was really, really important for the entire BAVD project, whether we were creating or editing records in Wikidata or SNAC, because it was really important in both of these systems to avoid duplicates as much as possible and not create a bunch of data noise by having all of these extra records that were added in bulk. And so the nice thing is that SNAC has an OpenRefine reconciliation service available, which basically means that you can use OpenRefine to look for matches to your data set in SNAC with less time spent sort of like entering things into the search bar. What we determined for the BAVD project is that it was most efficient to do kind of a 3-step reconciliation workflow. And so our first step was actually to reconcile our list of archival authorities against Wikidata rather than SNAC, because BAVD also had a really huge Wikidata editing project going on. We were going to have to reconcile the data to Wikidata anyway. So we additionally found that the Wikidata reconciliation service is maybe a little bit more accurate than the OpenRefine one or than the SNAC one. At least for our data, it seemed to turn out better results. So what we did is we reconciled our authorities to Wikidata. And then for each authority that had a Wikidata match, we used the OpenRefine feature to pull additional data in from Wikidata to get the SNAC ARC ID if it was available. So the screenshot's a little bit small, but on the left here, we have the page for Frances E. Page, who is a composer for a radio station in Austin. And so you see on her Wikidata page at the bottom under identifiers, there's a SNAC ARC ID. So using Open or Find, we pulled in these SNAC ARC IDs if they were available. And there's a little bit of a sticking point that kind of happens in that Wikidata refers to SNAC records using the SNAC ARC ID, and the SNAC Open or Find extension talks to SNAC using the SNAC ID, which are not the same thing. ARC IDs are ARC ID URLs, and SNAC URLs point to the same record, but they are different. They are different strings, like different identifiers. So there's a little bit of work that has to happen to actually get both of those identifiers if you're trying to talk to Wikidata and SNAC at the same time, as we were. So the second step of our process, if we were unable to get identifiers via Wikidata, was that we reconciled our data using the SNAC reconciliation service in Open or Find. So this really helped us automate the process of searching SNAC for the names. And then there's a final pass for authorities that still didn't match with the reconciliation service. We just manually researched those on SNAC. And then as kind of a quality control step, I reviewed the matches that we obtained through Wikidata, because Wikidata is generally pretty effective and accurate at matching up these identifiers correctly across different linked data sources, but there absolutely were mismatches. So it turned out to be very useful to review that. So now I want to skip ahead to this data formatting step in Open or Find. And I have this on here as one box, but this is like probably the most important part of the whole workflow, because this is how you get your data to look like how SNAC wants to receive the data, which is how you ensure that your data will appear on SNAC correctly. So the way that our database, which again was Airtable, exports data is in what Open or Find would consider rows mode. So that means that if we have multiple values for a field, like multiple subject headings that apply to one CPF, then those only appear as a single string in the export, like one cell separated by commas. Another kind of artifact of our database is that it spit out names wrapped in quotation marks. And so those are all things that we had to fix and kind of reformat away. So there are basically three big buckets of data formatting that worked for our project. The first was all of the cleanup tasks. So that was things like stripping the quotation marks off of names, and it also included the step where we verified that our names, our subject headings, our place names were formed according to SNAC's guidelines. The second bucket of data formatting was splitting these multi-valued cells into their own rows within the record. So when you give your SNAC data to Open or Find to give to SNAC, it interprets that data from Open or Find in records mode. So that means that you can tell Open or Find to attach multiple subject headings to a single CPF record if you have split those subjects out into multiple rows that refer back to the same one SNAC record. So that was kind of the second category of work. And the third category was merging columns into a pair of columns that give you both the value and the value type. And by that I mean, on this screenshot here, you can see there's a column for date of birth and date of death. But these values have to be submitted to SNAC in the form of one column containing all of the date values and a second column containing all of the date types. So instead of date of birth, date of death, we have one column that would say date and would say July 2nd, 1903, and then underneath October 16th, 1995. And then a second column that says date type, and it would say birth, and then under that it would say death. And that's how Open or Find and SNAC interpret that data. And again, Open or Find's features for data transformation are really, really central to doing this quickly and easily. The transpose feature was super, super central for this. So to organize these steps and make it easier to know what data out of Airtable became what data into SNAC, I created this spreadsheet that kind of shows where we got the data for each field from, how we modified it in Open or Find, any kind of special notes, and then an example of what the data was supposed to look like when we were done formatting it. And this was also kind of a quick reference guide for when we researched and wrote the SNAC records to remind us how to form the place names, subject terms correctly, and where to go find those subject terms. So the last stage of this process that I want to touch on in depth is exporting and tracking the SNAC IDs that you get back in response when you create resources and CPF records in SNAC. And this can be really important no matter what your use case is, but it's definitely very crucial if you are trying to create the linking relationships between CPFs and resources, because otherwise those records are just going to sort of exist like unmoored from anything else in SNAC. And so after the cycles where we created the CPFs and resources, we exported the SNAC response IDs and re-ingested those into our Airtable base, and then did what I will only describe as a very complicated set of Airtable magic tricks to give us a comma-separated list of CPF and resource IDs that we wanted to link to each new CPF we had just created. And this was made a little bit easier for us in the sense that we were only dealing with SNAC IDs, resource, and CPF that we had just created ourselves. We didn't have to go find any SNAC resource IDs for existing resources, because we already knew that everything we wanted to link to was a new SNAC resource. There weren't any existing resources for these collections. But theoretically, you could use existing resources in this workflow. You would just have to get those resource IDs, probably using the SNAC API. So this spreadsheet of just IDs became the basis for setting up the batch operation in OpenRefine to create the relationships between CPFs and between CPFs and resources. So for each SNAC CPF we created, we started with a column for each combination of relationship type and target. And so we end up with, like what you see on the screen here, 3 different columns for 3 different CPF to resource relationship types. So there's the SNAC ID over on the left here as contributor of resources, as referenced in resources, and as creator of resources. And then there's a 4th column here that is the CPF to CPF relationships for that SNAC ID. So that would just be associated with, in our case. So these are other people and organizations associated with the SNAC ID on the far left. And obviously this was a huge number of relationships that we were creating, which is because we created resources for this project at the individual audio episode level, as opposed to the series level or the collection level. And that is, again, because these are fully digitized collections with streaming audio for almost every single episode. And so we wanted to be able to point people to the actual episodes in which a SNAC CPF appears, not just the collection, and sort of like leave them to search through it themselves. But that, of course, is like a very common strategy and is dependent on the level of digitization and like the level of stable URLs available for items in the collection. So there are a few things in this project that were kind of sticking points or sort of tripped us up a little bit. The first is that it's very easy to duplicate records or information within records at any stage here. So we did have to be really careful to validate the data that we wanted to submit against what was already in SNAC. Even then, I would not at all be surprised to learn that we created some duplicate records or some duplicate data on accident. But we did work really hard to avoid that, because that kind of data cleanup can become really sticky, and we just really wanted to try to avoid it to start with. There's a little bit of unexpected behavior of the OpenRefine extension for SNAC that took some trial and error to figure out. So for example, anytime you want to touch a CPF record in SNAC, anytime you want to edit it, you have to include the CPF type in addition to the SNAC ID. So you have to have the ID and you have to have person or corporate body or family. Which is not that difficult of a problem to get around, but you have to remember to export both of those pieces of information and retain both fields on every single row, or else the upload will fail. So there were just some things that we had to figure out like that. Another issue was that development SNAC and production SNAC are mostly, but not completely, the same. And it turned out that it caused quite a chain reaction of failures in our upload when we were testing in the development environment and tried to link a CPF to another CPF that didn't yet exist in SNAC Dev. However, I believe we submitted a bug ticket to Jason Jordan and he was able to fix that. So I think that future versions of the extension, it's not going to fail your entire upload if you try talk to a CPF that doesn't exist. It'll just give you like a regular error. And then the last sticking point was that you have to have a pretty good handle on OpenRefine's terminology in some cases. So in particular, the difference between rows mode and records mode in OpenRefine is pretty consequential for the SNAC extension, because CPF records are uploaded in records mode, but the relations table is uploaded in rows mode. So there are just some things about OpenRefine that you do have to understand pretty well in order to have success with the extension. So as part of our project plan for the BAVD grant, I was tasked with writing a lot of documentation for pretty much every aspect of the project that I worked on, including the SNAC work. So the upper left-hand screenshot is the script from the BAVD GitHub repository for extracting data from SNAC. There's a link to the script in the documentation where I did my best to explain a few of the decisions that went into this script. On the right side is a screenshot from the very detailed text workflow that explains how to complete the whole process of creating new SNAC constellations. This is somewhat tailored to BAVD's project data and data model, but I did attempt to generalize it a bit so that it can at least serve as a rough guide for how to get your data into SNAC using this workflow. And then in the lower left corner is a screenshot from, again, what I would call a quick reference guide for the workflow. It's pretty highly tailored to the BAVD project, but it does give a sense of kind of the visual way that you can create the workflow as well. So these are a bunch of resources. These slides are going to be sent out. I just wanted to include this slide because it has a lot of links that are really important if you're trying to do this work. So I'm not going to go through this, but just know that when the slides are sent around, this will be on here with all of these links. And then a couple of acknowledgements I wanted to give really quick. So a lot of the technical work on the OpenRefine extension was done by Jason Jordan and Joseph Glass and Daniel Pitti on the SNAC team, and they provided us a lot of very responsive support and bug fixes over the last couple of years. So we are super appreciative of their support. And then our colleague Raph Viglianti on the Myth team also provided a lot of technical support on the BAVD project, particularly in creating the entire website, as well as writing the script for getting data out of the SNAC API. And then the workflows that I presented today were expanded and refined by me, but they were conceptualized and started by my colleague Stephanie Sapienza at Myth, who directed the BAVD project. Stephanie's contact info is up here on the right side if you have general questions about the BAVD project, or if you're wanting data from the project or something like that. My contact info is on the left, and I'm completely happy to answer questions, especially about the SNAC workflows or any of the other workflows that are online for this project. But again, I will note that I don't technically work at Myth anymore. So if you have bigger questions, I'll direct you to Stephanie, but I am very happy to answer some specific questions. And with that, I look forward to some discussion about this. Thanks.